Echoes Through Time. Chapter 1. The Fractured Present. The city of New Lumen was a sprawling labyrinth of light and shadow, a place where the future seemed to have come early, but its promises were already fraying. Towering skyscrapers, coated in reflective alloys, pierced the night sky like jagged teeth. Below, the streets pulsed with neon life, crowds moving beneath holographic advertisements that flickered with each passing second. But Elena Cross felt none of the city's vibrant heartbeat tonight. Instead, she stood still, motionless on the rooftop of the Temporal Physics Institute, watching the anomaly. It had been there for weeks now, an unnatural tear in reality. To most, it was just a flicker in the corner of their vision, a glitch in a city running too fast to notice. But for Elena, it was a wound in the fabric of time, bleeding contradictions into existence. She pulled her jacket tighter around her thin frame. The wind was sharp and cold, pulling wisps of her dark hair into her eyes. The anomaly shimmered before her, a swirling mass of iridescent light and shadow, shifting and folding like liquid mercury. It defied every law of physics she had ever learned, mocking the neat equations she and Marcus had once trusted. Her fingers grazed the cold steel of the bracelet on her wrist, a simple band with an intricate pattern, a keepsake from Marcus. He had designed it as a prototype chronolink, a device intended to anchor consciousness through temporal transitions. It was their last collaboration, their last hope. But Marcus never returned from that final test. Officially, the experiment had failed. Unofficially, Elena suspected something else, something terrifying. A faint vibration in the building drew her attention. The lab was alive with quiet energy. Machines hummed in rhythm with the anomaly's pulse. Inside, monitors flickered, displaying streams of data no one else could interpret. Temporal readings spiked erratically, sometimes reversing for moments that stretched into eternity. Inside the lab, Malik, her assistant and only confidant, was hunched over a console. He looked up when she entered. His dark eyes were wide, shadows underlined by sleepless nights. "Dr. Cross," he said, voice low and urgent, "the anomaly just shifted again. We're seeing temporal displacement in Sector 7B, people reported seeing duplicates of themselves from hours ago. It's spreading." Elena didn't respond immediately. She approached the chronometer, a complex apparatus of spinning gyroscopes, quantum coils, and an interface glowing with pale blue light. She had designed it to interface with the anomaly, to analyze and, hopefully, stabilize it. But tonight, it would do more. Tonight, she intended to reach through the fracture itself. "We're tampering with forces no one truly understands," Malik said. "If we destabilize it further, we could lose everything." "Marcus is out there," Elena whispered, more to herself than to Malik. "And I'm going to find him." Her voice cracked with a mixture of determination and desperation. The weight of months of grief pressed down on her chest like a physical force. Marcus had been more than a partner, he was her anchor in a chaotic world, the one constant in a life defined by equations and hypotheses. She pulled on a pair of gloves and adjusted the chronometer's settings. The machine hummed louder, spinning its gyroscopes faster. Streams of data cascaded across the screens, chronotemporal coordinates, quantum flux measurements, temporal density readings. "Ready?" Malik asked, swallowing his fear. Elena nodded. She activated the device. The room shook. Light warped. The air thickened as if time itself had become viscous. She felt a tug, a sensation like falling and flying at once. The boundaries of reality dissolved around her. She was no longer in the lab. Instead, she stood in the middle of a street, but it was not the New Lumen she knew. The sky was a bruised purple, the buildings distorted and half-formed. The air smelled of ozone and something metallic, like burning circuits. Around her, shadows flickered, ghostly echoes of moments that didn't belong here. Then she saw him. Marcus. Or at least, versions of him. One Marcus was laughing, carefree and alive. Another was frantically trying to stabilize a failing device. Yet another Marcus looked older, eyes haunted with knowledge Elena couldn't comprehend. They were all here, scattered across fractured moments, like shards of a broken mirror. Elena reached out, but the figures flickered, fragmented like holograms dissolving in sunlight. When she blinked, they were gone. Suddenly, a voice whispered, soft and ancient. "You tread on thin ice, Dr. Cross," it said. Elena spun around. A figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked in shifting patterns of light and dark. His face was partially obscured, but his eyes burned with an ageless intensity. "I am the Chronomancer," he said. "Guardian of the timeline." Elena's heart pounded. "I'm not here to break time. I want to fix it. To find him." The Chronomancer's eyes softened briefly. "Time is a river, but you treat it like a puzzle. If you change its flow, the consequences ripple beyond your understanding. Be warned, there are forces beyond even my control." Before she could respond, the scene shattered. The purple sky cracked open like glass, pulling her back. She tumbled through fractured time again, visions of past loves, lost opportunities, and futures that might never be. The sensation was dizzying, terrifying, and yet exhilarating. Then, she was back on the rooftop. The anomaly flickered, smaller but more volatile. Malik was waiting, eyes wide with concern. "What did you see?" Elena's breath came in ragged gasps. "Everything. And nothing." Marcus, he's out there, caught in the folds of time. But so much more is at stake. She looked out over the city again. New Lumen continued its restless dance of lights and shadows, unaware of the tears forming beneath its surface. The fractured present was just the beginning. Chapter 2, Into the Shifting Past. When Elena's eyes opened, the world felt wrong. She was no longer standing on the rooftop of the Temporal Physics Institute. The air was thick with the scent of rain on dry earth, mingled with something faintly metallic. The sky above was an impossible blend of colors, swirling purples bleeding into deep oranges, like a painting left unfinished, colors shifting with every blink. Around her, the cityscape was fractured, like a jigsaw puzzle with pieces that didn't quite fit. Buildings twisted at unnatural angles, their glass facades flickering between states of repair and ruin. People passed by, but their forms were hazy, as if caught between two realities. Some moved backward, others forward, and a few seemed frozen, trapped in moments stretched thin. Elena's breath hitched. She glanced at her wrist, no bracelet. Her chronolink was missing. Panic rose, but she forced herself to steady her mind. She was inside the anomaly. Her first leap through fractured time had been involuntary, a crash landing into the chaos she'd spent months studying. But now, she realized, she wasn't merely a victim of the anomaly's whims. The chronometer in the lab must have sent a signal, a beacon, pulling her consciousness across the shifting currents of time. She took a hesitant step forward. The street around her was a distorted echo of New Lumen's past. Neon signs flickered with old advertisements, Vanta Corp, Tomorrow's Energy Today, and Rebuild Now, the Great Flood Recovery. Cars that should have been obsolete rumbled by, their engines crackling with unfamiliar energy. Elena's mind reeled as she realized she was somewhere between decades, caught in a liminal zone of temporal flux. Her thoughts turned to Marcus. He had vanished during an experiment testing time dilation effects. Somewhere in this tangled web of moments, a version of him existed, maybe trapped, maybe lost forever. Determined, Elena started moving. The many faces of Marcus. She wandered the fractured streets, each step revealing shifting fragments of time. At one intersection, a Marcus emerged from a crumbling doorway, younger, hopeful, laughing with a woman Elena didn't recognize. Their voices were muffled, but the joy was unmistakable. Elena's chest tightened. This Marcus was a ghost from a life never lived, a future erased by the disaster she hoped to reverse. Further down, she found another Marcus sitting alone in a dim cafe, hunched over complex schematics, half-finished machines, and scribbled notes. His eyes were filled with doubt and exhaustion. He looked up, sensing her presence, but before their gazes met, he vanished, swallowed by a sudden shift in the temporal fabric. Elena's heart pounded. Was this a warning? Or a call for help? Each Marcus she saw was a fragment of a man caught in different possibilities, choices made and unmade, roads taken and abandoned. Her own existence felt fragile by comparison. The chronomancer's warning. Suddenly, a ripple in the air distorted her vision. The familiar figure of the chronomancer appeared, his cloak shimmering with stars and shifting sands of time. "You walk the edge of eternity, Elena," he said, voice echoing as if spoken from a great distance. "Each step you take fractures reality further. You risk tearing the very fabric that holds all moments together." Elena's eyes flashed with defiance. "I don't care about the risks. I need to find Marcus, and if I can change the past, maybe I can save him." The chronomancer's gaze pierced her. "Do you understand what that means? To change one moment is to ripple through all others. You may save one life but doom thousands. Time is not a puzzle to be solved, it is a living web, delicate and unforgiving." "But if we don't try," Elena began. The chronomancer raised a hand, silencing her. "Then you must be prepared for the consequences. Not all echoes can be undone." With that, he vanished, leaving Elena alone in the shifting twilight. Fractures and paradoxes. As she pressed on, Elena felt the anomaly's pull growing stronger, more chaotic. Time twisted around her in loops and spirals. She passed a park where children played, but some were stuck in endless loops, repeating the same movements like broken recordings. She saw a street corner where a man aged rapidly, his years flashing by in seconds before he crumpled to the ground only to spring back young again moments later. These were temporal paradoxes, moments where cause and effect tangled and collapsed. Her scientific mind raced. The anomaly wasn't just a rupture, it was a wound bleeding contradictory timelines into each other, causing reality to erode. A choice in the darkness. Exhausted, Elena found herself before a cracked mirror embedded in a shattered building. She stared into it and saw not her reflection, but a montage of her own life. Moments of joy, pain, regret, and love all bleeding together like watercolors on wet paper. Among them, Marcus appeared not as a memory, but as a living presence, reaching out. Her heart ached. Could she reach him? Could she risk everything to pull him back? A whisper curled through her mind, a warning and a promise. Time is not yours to command. But Elena refused to let go. With trembling hands, she reached toward the mirror. And the world shattered once more. Chapter 3: The Paradox War. Elena awoke to a world that was neither present nor past, but a chaotic fusion of both, where timelines collided like titanic forces clashing beneath the surface of reality. The sky above was a restless storm, rolling clouds crackling with shards of lightning that fractured time itself, splintering moments like glass. The city around her was a battlefield. Buildings leaned precariously, their facades shifting between pristine and ruined with every passing second. Streets were crowded with figures from countless eras, soldiers in futuristic armor clashed with men in ragged clothing from long-forgotten wars, vehicles from decades apart zoomed past each other, some crumbling into dust mid-ride. This was the Paradox War, a temporal conflict waged by factions desperate to control the fractured timelines and bend history to their will. Arrival at the front lines. Elena's boots hit cracked pavement, her breath visible in the sharp air thick with the scent of ozone and scorched metal. She clutched the small chronolink device she'd managed to recover during her last temporal leap, the only anchor she had to reality. From the shadows emerged a ragtag group, faces hard with battle weariness but eyes burning with purpose. Their leader stepped forward, a woman with silver-streaked hair and a jagged scar running down her cheek. She wore a patchwork of armor pieces scavenged from different eras, blending technology with practicality. "Dr. Cross," the woman said, voice sharp and commanding. "I'm Captain Lyra Voss. We're part of the temporal resistance, fighting to preserve the original timeline." Elena nodded, swallowing the knot of fear and uncertainty in her throat. "I'm here to find Marcus. And to help." Lyra's gaze softened briefly. "Marcus? You mean the physicist trapped in the paradox loop? We've been searching for him too. He's vital to restoring balance. The temporal resistance." Elena followed Lyra through the war-torn streets to a fortified compound bristling with technology scavenged from countless timelines. Screens flickered with live feeds showing fractured events, A city's founding one moment, its destruction the next. Battles played out repeatedly, sometimes ending in victory, sometimes in ruin. Inside, Elena met scientists, engineers, and soldiers from disparate eras, united by one goal: to stop the timelines from unraveling completely. One of the engineers, an elderly man named Harren, explained their predicament. The anomaly isn't just a rupture, it's a wound opened by paradoxes created when time travelers interfere with critical events. Each paradox spawns alternate realities that bleed into ours, causing this war. He tapped a holographic map dotted with flashing red zones, fracture points where timelines intersected dangerously. We think Marcus got caught in one of these fractures, a loop where cause and effect trap him in an endless cycle. If we don't break the loop, both he and the timeline could collapse. Elena's heart clenched. Marcus, lost somewhere in the tangled skein of time, his fate tied to the survival of all existence. Shadows of power. But the Resistance was not the only player. Far beyond their compound, shadowy factions maneuvered: corporations, rogue time travelers, and militarized agencies seeking to exploit the fractured timelines for power and profit. They believed the paradoxes could be weaponized, reshaping history to their advantage. Elena learned of a group called the Chrono Syndicate, a ruthless organization led by a man known only as Kale, who wielded technology capable of rewriting entire eras. Reports told of entire cities vanishing overnight, replaced by alternate versions more favorable to Syndicate interests. Resistance scouts described skirmishes where Syndicate agents erased key figures from history, causing ripple effects that distorted the present. The stakes were staggering. Time was no longer a river but a battlefield, a place where every choice echoed through eternity. Into the paradox loop. Driven by desperation, Elena volunteered to enter the paradox loop where Marcus was trapped. Using a modified temporal suit designed by Harren, she prepared for the leap. The suit was a marvel, integrating quantum stabilizers, temporal phase shifters, and neural anchors to prevent her consciousness from fragmenting. As she stepped into the temporal chamber, the air shimmered with charged particles. Remember, Harren warned, the loop feeds on your memories and fears. Stay anchored to your purpose. If you falter, you may become lost inside yourself. Elena nodded, determination steel-hard. The chamber activated. Trapped in the loop, Elena plunged into the paradox, a kaleidoscope of repeating moments. She found herself reliving a single day, over and over, fractured and distorted. She watched Marcus frantically recalibrating a device, sweat streaming down his face. Each attempt failed, resetting time back to dawn. Elena tried to call out, but her voice echoed and faded. The environment warped around her, walls shifting between states of collapse and renewal, time stretching and compressing unpredictably. Memories bled in, both hers and Marcus's, painful regrets, fleeting joys, and the weight of choices past. Each iteration deepened the loop's hold, testing her resolve. The choice. Finally, Marcus locked eyes with her, not the fading ghost she'd seen before, but real, tangible, filled with hope and fear. "Elena," he whispered, "you can't fix this from outside. We have to break the cycle, together." Elena nodded, tears blurring her vision. "How?" He pointed to the device, a quantum temporal destabilizer, the very machine they'd built to control the anomaly. It had become a prison. To reset time, we have to destroy it. But it's unstable. It might erase us both, or end the loop and restore the timeline. Elena's mind raced. Sacrifice one moment for all others. Save Marcus and risk all existence, or let him go to save everything else. Her heart ached. The battle for time. Outside the loop, the paradox war raged on. Resistance fighters clashed with Syndicate agents, time fractures exploding in bursts of light and sound. Elena could feel the ripples through the temporal field as the battle intensified, a war fought not just with weapons but with the fate of reality itself. In that war, Elena knew her choice would echo forever. Chapter 4: Collapse and Convergence. Elena's breath came in shallow gasps, her fingers trembling as she gripped the quantum temporal destabilizer. The device pulsed erratically, its core flickering with unstable energy like a star on the brink of collapse. Around her, The paradox loop twisted reality, walls bending and folding, the air thick with temporal dissonance. Marcus stood beside her, eyes locked onto the device, face pale but resolute. "This is it," he said softly. "If we destroy this, the loop breaks. Time should reset to its original flow, but everything else is a question mark." Elena swallowed her fear. "We don't have another choice." With a trembling hand, she activated the destabilizer's overload sequence. The room vibrated violently, shards of fractured moments cascading around them like falling glass. Suddenly, a surge of energy exploded outward, knocking them both to the floor. Outside the loop, the war reaches a fever pitch. Beyond the paradox loop, the battlefield had transformed into a maelstrom of collapsing timelines. In the Resistance's compound, alarms blared as fractures widened, threatening to swallow entire city blocks. The skies overhead roiled with temporal storms, lightning streaks fracturing reality in jagged arcs. Captain Lyra Voss barked orders, rallying her fighters against an onslaught of syndicate forces armed with reality-warping weapons. Explosions erupted as the very ground beneath them buckled, splitting open to reveal flashes of impossible landscapes, ancient ruins bleeding into neon-lit streets. Harren monitored the temporal field, voice grim. If the loop collapses as we expect, the feedback could be catastrophic. We must prepare for the worst. Time's breaking point. Back inside the loop, Elena and Marcus were caught in the eye of the storm. As the destabilizer's energy surged, reality splintered around them. Echoes of countless possible futures and pasts flickered in and out of existence, glimpses of lives they might have led, loves lost and found, victories and failures. Marcus reached out, brushing a trembling hand against Elena's cheek. "No matter what happens, I'm glad it's with you." Tears blurred her vision. "We fix this. Together." The device began its final countdown. The moment of collapse. A violent pulse tore through the paradox, the temporal storm crescendoing in blinding light. Elena and Marcus braced themselves as the loop unraveled, the walls of fractured time collapsing into a singularity. For a heartbeat, everything was silence. Then, convergence. They found themselves standing together, but the world was new. The city was whole, New Lumen restored to its sleek, vibrant self, humming with life. The temporal anomaly was gone. Elena's eyes scanned the skyline, disbelief mixing with relief. Marcus squeezed her hand. "We made it." But something was wrong. People moved around them, but some flickered, ghost-like, half-present. Fractures in reality remained, faint but undeniable. A world rewritten. Inside the restored city, Elena and Marcus discovered subtle but profound changes. Events they remembered had shifted, friends missing, memories altered. The Resistance's battle was erased, but so were some moments of peace and joy. The Chronomancer appeared once more, his eyes grave. The paradox loop's destruction has restored the main timeline, but at a cost. Time is healing, but the scars remain. Some echoes persist, remnants of the conflict. Elena's heart sank. "Can it be fixed?" "Time is a living thing," he said. "It converges and collapses in endless cycles. Your actions have set a new course. Now you must navigate it. The choice ahead." As Elena and Marcus walked the streets of the altered New Lumen, they faced a new reality, one of fragile hope and uncertain futures. The war for time was not over. The Chrono Syndicate still lingered in shadows, and fractures whispered beneath the surface. But they had each other. And now, a choice. To fight for a future where time flows freely, or to protect the fragile balance, knowing every choice could create new fractures. Elena looked at Marcus, resolve hardening. "We keep fighting. Together." He nodded. "No matter what." Chapter 5, Echoes of Eternity. The city of New Lumen glittered beneath a vast, star-studded sky, but to Elena and Marcus, it was a fragile veneer stretched thin over the wounds of time. The streets hummed with life, yet beneath the surface, whispers of fractured moments lingered like ghosts, echoes of battles fought and choices made across timelines. The calm before the storm. Elena sat in their small shared apartment, a place of rare peace amid chaos. The chronolink on her wrist pulsed faintly, a reminder of the temporal threads still woven through her life. Marcus was across the room, poring over data recovered from the Resistance archives. They had spent weeks piecing together the remnants of the Paradox War, uncovering how the Chrono Syndicate's machinations threatened to unravel all they'd fought for. Elena broke the silence. "Do you ever wonder if time itself remembers us?" Marcus looked up, eyes tired but unwavering. "Maybe time is more than a river or a web. Maybe it's a story and we're part of the narrative." She smiled, though a shadow lingered. "Then let's make sure ours is worth telling." The final threat. Their fragile calm shattered when a message came through a secure channel, an urgent warning from Captain Lyra Voss. "The Syndicate has launched a temporal assault targeting the Temporal Physics Institute. They're after the chronometer and the technology you developed. If they succeed, the fractures will return, and worse." Elena's heart raced. The battle was far from over. Marcus nodded. "We have to stop them once and for all." Race against time. Elena and Marcus raced through New Lumen's neon-lit streets, the chronometer secure in a protective case. They met Lyra and the remaining resistance fighters at the Institute, now fortified but surrounded by temporal distortions, swirling rifts threatening to tear reality apart. The Syndicate arrived, led by Kale himself, cold, ruthless, wielding weapons capable of rewriting history. Clash of realities. The battle was brutal and surreal. Temporal weapons distorted the environment, buildings flickered between ages, the ground twisted beneath their feet, and time looped in fragmented cycles. Fighters from different eras clashed in chaotic skirmishes that defied logic. Elena used her knowledge to stabilize sections of the field, while Marcus worked frantically on the chronometer, trying to counter the Syndicate's tech. Kale confronted them, sneering. "You can't stop progress. Time belongs to those who seize it." Elena met his gaze. "Time belongs to no one. It flows through all of us." The sacrifice. As the battle reached its crescendo, Kale unleashed a devastating temporal weapon that threatened to collapse the entire city into a singularity of fractured time. Marcus realized the only way to stop it was to synchronize the chronometer's core with the anomaly's energy, an act that would destroy the device and trap him in the temporal flux forever. He turned to Elena, his eyes fierce with love and sorrow. "This is the price to save everything." "No," Elena whispered, tears streaming. "We face this together. Together through eternity." With a final, desperate surge, they activated the chronometer. Energy exploded outward, enveloping them in a blinding light. Time fractured violently around them, moments spiraled, past and future converged, and reality bent like liquid glass. In that infinite instant, Elena and Marcus were everywhere and nowhere, echoes of themselves reverberating through the timeline. Aftermath, a new dawn. When the light faded, the city was still. The temporal fractures were gone. The Syndicate's threat extinguished. But Marcus was gone. Elena stood alone on the rooftop where it had all begun, the night air cool against her skin. Her chronolink was silent. She whispered into the wind, "Thank you." A soft shimmer appeared, faint, almost imperceptible. A voice echoed, distant but clear. "I'm here." Elena smiled through tears. Time may have taken him, but love had left its mark on eternity. Epilogue. The endless story. Years passed. New Lumen thrived, its people unaware of the battles fought in the unseen currents of time. Elena continued her work, guarding the fragile balance, aware that time was a story with no true end. And in quiet moments, when the night was still, she could feel the echo of Marcus's presence, a reminder that love, like time, is infinite.